I thought I had it all figured out. 22 years of marriage to Diane, two beautiful daughters, Amanda and Jessica, and a life that looked perfect from the outside. I worked hard as a civil engineer, Diane climbed the corporate ladder as a marketing director, and our girls were making us proud. Sunday dinners, holiday traditions, the kind of stability you build over decades. But there was this nagging feeling I kept pushing down, this tiny voice that whispered something was off. Diane started coming home later, smelling like cologne I did not wear, with excuses that felt rehearsed. I told myself I was being paranoid. I was wrong. And the worst part, the people I loved most were the ones who betrayed me deepest. Before we dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you have ever felt the sting of betrayal from someone you trusted, hit that like button and subscribe, because what I am about to share will show you that betrayal can come from the closest people in your life, and sometimes the only way to heal is to fight back. Let me take you back to how things were before everything fell apart. My name is Sydney, and I live in a 2-story house in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. Diane and I bought it 15 years ago, right after Jessica was born. It had a small backyard with a vegetable garden I tended on weekends, and enough space for our girls to grow up safely. I worked as a civil engineer, specializing in bridge construction for a local firm. The job paid well, around $120,000 a year, and gave me a sense of purpose. I liked building things that lasted, things that people could depend on. Diane was 42, smart, ambitious, and beautiful, in a way that turned heads even after all those years. She worked as the marketing director for a mid-sized advertising agency downtown, pulling in about $80,000 annually. Our daughters were our pride. Amanda, 24, had graduated with a degree in finance and landed a job at a regional bank. Jessica, 21, was finishing her senior year studying graphic design at Portland State. Every Sunday, we had dinner together. I would grill steaks, Diane made her famous garlic mashed potatoes, and the girls brought wine or dessert. We laughed, we talked about work and school, and I felt like the luckiest man alive. We had traditions. Summer road trips to Crater Lake, Christmas mornings opening gifts by the fireplace, anniversaries celebrated with quiet dinners at our favorite Italian restaurant. I thought we were solid. I thought we were untouchable. Looking back now, I realize I was living in a bubble, and it was about to burst in the cruelest way possible. It started last March. Diane began working late, 3 or 4 nights a week. At first, it did not bother me. She said she had landed a major client and needed to collaborate closely with her boss, Graham, on the campaign. I supported her. I even brought dinner to her office a couple of times, thinking I was being a good husband. But then I started noticing little things. She changed the way she dressed. Gone were the comfortable blouses and slacks. Suddenly she wore form-fitting dresses, heels that clicked on our hardwood floors, makeup that seemed heavier, more deliberate. She joined a gym and dropped 15 pounds in 2 months. When I complimented her, she smiled, but there was something distant in her eyes. Her phone became a fortress. She changed her passcode, kept it face down on every surface, and took it with her, even to the bathroom. When I walked into a room, she would quickly close whatever she was reading. Our intimacy disappeared. We had not been close in months, and when I tried to initiate, she was always too tired, too stressed, too something. I bought flowers, booked a table at that Italian place, suggested a weekend getaway. She declined every time with a weary sigh and a vague promise of later. I told myself she was just focused on her career. I told myself I was overthinking. But deep down, that voice kept whispering, and I hated myself for not listening sooner. I felt lonely in my own home, like a stranger watching my wife transform into someone I did not recognize. The worst part was not knowing if I was crazy or if my instincts were right. I was scared to find out, but I was more scared of living in ignorance. Everything changed on a Friday evening in May. I had finished a project ahead of schedule and left work early, around 5:30. I wanted to surprise Diane, maybe take her out for an early dinner. When I got home, the house was quiet. I called her name, but no answer. Then I saw it, her iPad sitting on the kitchen counter screen, glowing. She must have forgotten it in her rush to leave. I should not have looked, I know that. But something pulled me toward it, and what I saw shattered me. The messaging app was open, synced with her phone. At the top of the screen was a contact labeled simply G. The most recent message read, "Cannot wait to have you in my arms tonight. The hotel room is ready." My hands started shaking. I scrolled up and my stomach turned. Hundreds of messages going back 6 months. Explicit texts, photos. I will never be able to unsee plans to meet at the Marriott downtown, references to his apartment. Graham, her boss. The man I had shaken hands with at company holiday parties. The man I had thanked for mentoring my wife. I sat down at the kitchen table, my mind racing. 6 months. Half a year of lies. I thought about all the late nights, the business trips, the excuses. It was not about work. It was never about work. I wanted to scream, to throw the iPad across the room, but instead I just sat there numb. Part of me wanted to confront her right then, but another part, the logical engineer part, told me to gather more information. If I was going to do this, I needed proof. I needed to know the full extent of the betrayal. That night, I lied to Diane. I told her I had to go out of town for an emergency site inspection, that I would be back the next morning. She barely looked up from her phone when I said it, just nodded and said, "Okay, be safe." I packed a small bag, got in my truck, and drove to the Marriott downtown. I parked in the underground garage, found a spot with a view of the lobby entrance, and waited. My heart pounded in my chest, my mind replaying every moment of our marriage, searching for the signs I had missed. Around 8 o'clock I saw them. Diane walked in first, wearing a black dress I had never seen before, her hair down and curled. Then he appeared, Graham, mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, expensive suit, hand on the small of her back like he owned her. They were laughing, comfortable, intimate, in a way that made my blood boil. They walked to the elevator and I watched the doors close behind them. I sat in that truck until midnight, my knuckles white from gripping the steering wheel. When they finally came out, Diane was fixing her hair and Graham kissed her cheek before they walked to separate cars. She drove home, arriving just after 1 in the morning. I heard her shower, then slip into bed beside me like nothing had happened. The next morning I could not hold it in anymore. I needed to know if I was alone in this or if there were others who knew and said nothing. I called Amanda and Jessica, asked them to come over for lunch. When they arrived, I looked them in the eyes and asked, "Have you noticed anything strange about your mother lately?" Amanda avoided my gaze. "No, Dad." "Why?" Jessica fidgeted with her phone. "She is just busy with work." But their voices cracked, their body language screamed dishonesty. I pressed harder. "Are you sure?" "Nothing at all." That is when I noticed the way they exchanged glances, the way they closed ranks around Diane. Over the next few days I paid closer attention. I saw Amanda and Jessica texting Diane, constantly giggling over inside jokes, then going silent when I entered the room. One afternoon I overheard Amanda on the phone in the backyard. "Mom, you need to be more careful. Dad almost found out last week." My heart stopped. They knew. My daughters knew their mother was cheating and they were helping her hide it. The betrayal was not just from Diane anymore. It was from my entire family. I did not explode. I did not yell or cry or beg. Instead, I became cold, calculated, surgical. If my family was going to betray me, I was going to make sure they understood the consequences. I spent the next 3 weeks planning every detail of what I now call my nuclear revenge. First, I hired a private investigator. His name was Tom, a former cop with 30 years of experience. I gave him everything I had, the messages, the hotel name, the timeline. He followed Diane and Graham for 3 weeks, documenting every meeting, every touch, every kiss. He compiled a folder thick with photos, videos, receipts, and timestamps. It was undeniable, irrefutable evidence of a prolonged affair. Second, I handled our finances. Diane and I had a joint savings account with $220,000, money we had saved for retirement, for emergencies, for our future. I quietly transferred every cent into a separate account in my name only. Legally, it was within my rights. Oregon is not a community property state, and I made sure to consult with a lawyer first. Speaking of which, I retained the best divorce attorney in Portland, a woman named Caroline, who had a reputation for being ruthless in court. She helped me file for divorce, citing adultery with documented proof, and drafted a settlement that ensured I would not have to pay a dime in spousal support. Third, I turned my attention to Graham. I did some digging and discovered he was married to a woman named Patricia with 2 young children. He had been living a double life just like Diane. I copied all the evidence Tom had gathered, the photos, the messages, the hotel records, and packaged it neatly. Then I mailed it to Patricia at their home address. Fourth, I researched the company policy at Diane's firm. Turns out, relationships between supervisors and subordinates were strictly prohibited, classified as a conflict of interest and grounds for termination. I sent an anonymous email to their Human Resources Department with all the evidence attached. I made sure it was airtight, professional, and impossible to ignore. Fifth, and this was the part that hurt the most, I decided to cut off financial support for Amanda and Jessica. For years, I had been helping them. I paid Amanda's car insurance, her phone bill, and even helped with her student loans. I covered Jessica's tuition rent and gave her a credit card for emergencies. All of that was in my name, all of it was my money, and all of it was going to stop. I canceled the credit cards, stopped the automatic payments, and sent them each a formal letter explaining why. The day I chose to execute my plan was a Saturday in early June. I invited everyone over for dinner just like old times. Diane, Amanda, and Jessica all showed up unsuspecting, chatting about their week like nothing was wrong. We sat down at the dining table and I served the meal I had prepared: grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, and a salad. We ate in relative silence, the tension thick but unspoken. Then, as we finished, I stood up, walked to the living room, and connected my laptop to the television. "I want to show you all something," I said calmly. Diane looked confused. Amanda and Jessica exchanged nervous glances. I pressed play, the screen filled with a slideshow of images. Diane and Graham entering the hotel. Diane and Graham at a restaurant holding hands across the table. Screenshots of their text messages, the words "I love you" and "cannot wait to see you again" blown up for everyone to see. The room went silent. Diane turned white, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "Sydney, I can explain," she stammered. I held up my hand. "No, you cannot. 22 years, Diane. 22 years I gave you everything I had. My trust, my love, my loyalty. And this is what you did with it." I turned to Amanda and Jessica, who were both crying now. "And you two, my daughters, the girls I raised, the girls I sacrificed for, you knew about this. You helped her. You lied to my face." Amanda tried to speak, but I cut her off. "I do not want to hear it." I reached into my bag and pulled out 3 envelopes. "Diane, this is your copy of the divorce papers. I have filed on grounds of adultery and I have all the evidence I need. You will not get a cent of spousal support. I have already moved our savings into my account, which according to my lawyer is completely legal. Also, I sent all of this," I gestured to the screen, "to Patricia, Graham's wife. I imagine she has already filed for her own divorce by now." Diane crumpled into her chair, sobbing. "I also sent everything to your HR department," I continued. "You and Graham violated company policy. I would not be surprised if you are both called in for termination on Monday." I turned to my daughters. "Amanda, Jessica, these are letters explaining that I am cutting off all financial support effective immediately. No more car insurance, no more tuition payments, no more credit cards. You are adults. You made adult decisions. Now you can face adult consequences." The room erupted. Amanda screamed at me, calling me cruel and heartless. Jessica begged me to reconsider, saying she was sorry that she did not know what else to do. Diane just sat there, broken, staring at the floor. I picked up my keys and walked toward the door. "I am done," I said quietly. "I am done being the fool. I am done being the one who gets walked all over. You all made your choices. Now live with them." And I left. I walked out of that house, the house I had bought and loved, and I did not look back. The fallout was swift and brutal, but not for me. For them. Graham's wife, Patricia, filed for divorce within days. She took him to the cleaners, getting full custody of their kids and half of everything he owned. His reputation in the industry was destroyed, and within 2 weeks he was fired from his position. Diane was not far behind. The company investigated the relationship, confirmed the policy violation, and terminated her employment. She was also demoted in her professional network, blacklisted by former colleagues who wanted nothing to do with the scandal. She had to move out of our house, which I sold, and into a cramped one-bedroom apartment across town. The affair that was supposed to give her excitement and passion left her broke and alone. Graham, facing his own financial ruin and the wrath of his ex-wife, ended things with Diane almost immediately. He blamed her for ruining his life, and she blamed him right back. Their fantasy crumbled the moment real consequences arrived. Amanda and Jessica struggled too. Amanda, who had been living comfortably with my financial cushion, suddenly had to work extra shifts at the bank to cover her bills. She sold her car and started taking the bus. Jessica had to drop out of school for a semester to apply for scholarships and find a part-time job. She moved into a shared apartment with 3 roommates, a far cry from the comfortable living I had provided. Both of them were furious at first, but as the months went by, something shifted. They started reaching out, sending me emails with subject lines like, "I am sorry," and "Can we talk?" I did not respond right away. I needed time, and frankly, they needed to feel the weight of their actions. As for me, the first few months were hard. I was angry, hurt, and lonely. I stayed in a hotel for a few weeks before finding a small but modern apartment closer to my office. I threw myself into work, taking on bigger projects, longer hours. My boss noticed my dedication and promoted me to senior project manager, which came with a significant raise. On weekends, I started hiking in the Columbia River Gorge, something I had always wanted to do but never made time for. The solitude was therapeutic, the physical exertion helped clear my mind, and the beauty of nature reminded me that there was still good in the world. I also joined a book club at the local library. It was there that I met people who had been through similar betrayals, people who understood what it felt like to have your trust shattered. We did not talk about our pain all the time. Mostly we just discussed novels and argued about plot twists, but knowing I was not alone made a difference. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. I learned to cook new recipes, took up woodworking, and even adopted a dog, a golden retriever named Max, who greeted me every day with unconditional love. I was rebuilding not the life I had before, but something new, something mine. About 8 months after everything went down, I finally agreed to meet Amanda and Jessica for coffee. They looked different, humbler, more genuine. Amanda spoke first. "Dad, I know, sorry does not fix anything, but I need you to know that I regret what I did. I thought I was protecting Mom, but I see now that I was just enabling her to hurt you. That was wrong." Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I was scared to tell you. I thought if I said something, the family would fall apart. But it fell apart anyway, and I made it worse. I am so sorry." I listened, and for the first time in months I felt a crack in the wall I had built around my heart. I did not forgive them right then, but I told them I appreciated their honesty and that maybe with time we could rebuild something. It would not be what it was, but maybe it could be something real. I never spoke to Diane again. She tried calling, texting, even showing up at my apartment once, but I had nothing to say to her. The woman I married was gone, replaced by someone I did not recognize and did not want to know. The divorce was finalized 6 months after I filed, and I walked away with my dignity, my savings, and my self-respect intact. Looking back now, I do not regret what I did. Some people called it nuclear revenge, and maybe it was. But it was also justice. It was me standing up for myself after years of being taken for granted. Betrayal does not just come from strangers or enemies. It comes from the people who sleep next to you at night, the people you trust with your deepest fears and greatest hopes. And when that betrayal happens, you have 2 choices. You can let it define you, let it break you, or you can fight back, reclaim your power, and build a life that is truly yours. I chose the latter. I chose to stop being the victim and start being the hero of my own story. Was it painful? Absolutely. Did it cost me relationships that I thought would last forever? Yes. But it also gave me something I had lost along the way. It gave me back my self-respect. It taught me that trust is a gift, not a given, and that when someone abuses that gift, they do not deserve a second chance. It taught me that loyalty to yourself is more important than loyalty to people who do not value you. And it taught me that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from the people who hurt you, even if you love them. The truth is, I still think about that night sometimes, the night I played that slideshow, the night I watched my family fall apart. I wonder if I could have handled it differently if there was a gentler way. But then I remember the 6 months of lies, the nights I spent alone while Diane was with Graham, the way my daughters looked me in the eye and lied. And I know that what I did was not about cruelty. It was about consequence. It was about showing them that actions have weight, that betrayal has a price, and that I was not going to be the one to pay it anymore. If there is one thing I want you to take away from my story, it is this. Do not let people walk all over you in the name of love or family. Do not sacrifice your dignity to keep the peace. And do not be afraid to stand up for yourself even when it hurts, even when it is hard, even when the people you are standing up to are the ones you love most. Because at the end of the day, the only person who has to live with your choices is you. And you owe it to yourself to make choices you can be proud of. So here I am 2 years later, living in a one-bedroom apartment with my dog Max, working a job I love, surrounded by friends who respect me, and a life that is entirely my own. Is it perfect? No. But it is honest. It is real. And it is mine. And honestly, that is more than I ever had before. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? How did you handle it? Did you fight back or walk away quietly? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes, knowing you are not alone is the first step to healing. Thank you for listening, and remember, your life is yours to reclaim. Never let anyone take that from you. Take care, stay strong, and I will see you in the next one.